And first up this week is going to be Traveling the Dungeon, Dungeon Travels book number 2, written by Austin Sleet. It is 259 pages, $2.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. Dale wanted to do more than survive as a dungeon core. His experience with the gods made it clear that with power, he could do as he pleased, and without it, he was simply a toy of the powerful. Unfortunately, it isn't just the gods who have plans for the traveling dungeon. Follow Dale as he tries to create his own little world, study magic and enchant devices, and create challenges for the gods and an Arch-Mage, all while trying to keep Miss Bluebox happy. From the Spire of the West to the Orcs of the South to a discovery that will rock the world, Dale can't help but shove his stone where it doesn't belong. Okay, this is a good dungeon core novel. This dungeon does... the author should say, does something a little bit different with his dungeon core novel than others have done, that kind of gives a very open, almost limitless possibility of storytelling. What this dungeon setup is that this dungeon travels all over the globe, so they have entrances. So it's not really tied to a specific region or location in this world. And what this kind of ends up allowing is for like these really interesting peeks into like just a variety of magical cultures and magical RPG races, and just seeing like their little like cultural. It's almost like you're an anthropologist picking out these little fantasy RPG cultures and communities. And that's one of the things I think I really enjoyed about the story. Is just like the huge variety of possibilities, and even within the story itself, like the different kind of cultures that are kind of brought together. At its core, it's still a dungeon core novel. So there's adventures and there's traps and there's mazes for people to go through and challenges to go through. But it's not as much about the dungeon progression by murder hoboing everybody as much as possible. This very much kind of sets it up as almost a challenge dungeon for the various races. And a lot of the story, especially in the second book, is almost as much about the dungeon, who's sentient, learning about the various cultures and kind of deciding what class path it wants to go down. In this particular case, it's magical in this instance, and so you're getting a lot of very good, very interesting, very deep magical theorizing and magical progression and discovery on the RPG side of things. The first book was honestly a little bit light. You got some notifications for class stuff. This one's probably a little bit heavier than that, just because the class stuff is so intricate to this RPG world. Kind of in the same way that it is for the Wandering Inn, and that classes kind of define the role and power sets for everybody, and in this case includes the dungeon. And so there is some progression in that respect in it, but that particular aspect isn't like the huge emphasis. Like it's a good portion of it, but it's not the thing. A lot of the story again revolves around magic theorizing, exploration, some of the challenge stuff, and also just like world building as the dungeon kind of pokes its head into different areas of the world, deciding where he wants to place his next dungeon opening, so that he gets new creatures to come in. So it's kind of fun. It's interesting. I've always liked it. And this one is no different. So I enjoyed book 1, enjoyed book number 2 just as much. Gets a score of 7.6 out of 10. That's the Traveling Dungeon, the Dungeon Travels book number 2, with a score of 7.6 out of 10.